In our endeavor to answer the question, what is this love that remains when all of human love in all its forms has been played out or is dead? And in attempting to answer that question, we've arrived at another enigma, because the other day it was agreed that to know this love that remains, we have to go beyond perception. So there's an hypothesis that's put to you, and that is that the world is what it is because of perception, and perception is what it is because of conditioning. We're conditioned to know the different kinds of love, the mother's love, the love between lovers, the unconditional love, are all loves that have been created by our perceptions from conditioning, like we've been taught that a tree is a tree and so forth. So to know this love, to be able to answer this question, what is this love? As was said, we have to go deeper, so to speak. So there's another story that itself is somewhat of a riddle, but without doubt, when we ponder on it, will give us a clue, perhaps, to how it is that we answer this question. What is this love that remains when human love is dead? And it's the story about Mei Ling and Wu Tan. And Mei Ling was the daughter of a very wealthy merchant, and Wu Tan was the son of a fisherman. But they played together in the dusty road in front of their houses. And from the earliest age, they were in a companionship that grew into a love that was deep. So by the time they'd reached their teenage years, they were deeply, deeply in love with one another, knowing each other's depths, having explored each other's beings from that early age to the time when maturity was upon them. But Mei Ling came to the age when she was marriageable, and of course her rich merchant father did not want to marry his daughter off to a fisherman's son. So he found what he thought was a suitable suitor for her, and the marriage was arranged. But Mei Ling was broken-hearted, as was Wu Tan. And Wu Tan reached the decision that he could not bear to remain to see his beloved Mei Ling married and in the arms of another man. So he decided to leave his village. So one night he packed his little knapsack and he left the village. He hadn't gone very far when he had to rest for the night. So he lay down his knapsack, placing his head on it, under a tree by a stream, and went to sleep. But during the night he felt a presence nearby, close to him, close enough that he could feel a breath on his cheek. He awoke suddenly, thinking that some demon had come up and embraced him. But when he looked, it was his beloved Mei Ling. She could not bear to live without him, so she left her family home and came to join him. They ran off together. They crossed that stream. They made their way to a place where Wu Tan, who had learned the ways of his father, became a successful fisherman, and they lived quite comfortably. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl. But then Mei Ling said to her husband Wu Tan one day, "I dearly, dearly regret leaving my parents behind. I cannot bear it any longer. We must go back and make retribution to them." So they packed up their belongings, and with their 2 children, they set off to return to their home village. When they came to a place nearby, Mei Ling said to her husband Wu Tan, "You go and explain to my parents, otherwise it will be a very great shock for them." So Mei Ling, with the 2 children, stayed behind while Wu Tan went up to Mei Ling's family home and knocked on the door. Her father, the merchant, answered the door, and after the salutations, the greetings that were necessary in that day, Wu Tan apologized, bowing deeply to the merchant, saying how he regretted that they had run off, but that they were very happy and they had 2 children. But the merchant looked very, very perplexed. He said, "But what are you talking about? Mei Ling is here in her bed. When you left, she took to her bed and would not get up, and there she's been languishing for all of this time." He said, "Wait, I will go and get her." So when her father, the merchant, went to Mei Ling's chamber and told her that Wu Tan was outside the door, she immediately rose up from her bed and put on her finest gown and accompanied her father out to the door where Wu Tan was standing. Wu Tan was aghast to see Mei Ling. But just at that moment, his wife, Mei Ling, came up the ridge and walked up towards them. The 2 Mei Lings faced one another, one in her finery and the other in her fisherwoman's garb. And the 2 Mei Lings merged together to become one. But the strange phenomena was that this Mei Ling was wearing the 2 sets of clothing, that of the finery of a bride-to-be, and the other in the homely garb of the fisher woman. What is the deep meaning of this story for us as we endeavor to answer the question that goes beyond perception as to what this love is that remains when human love in all its forms is gone, dead, played out in us is the deep meaning of this story? Mei Ling, merged, but wearing two sets of clothes.
I think the Mei Ling that stayed home, rejected the world, and married to herself, and the other one went into the world, and eventually the two of them joined and found unity.
Absolutely. So what is the opportunity that arises for us as we're faced with this question? How often have we heard the saying, be in the world but not of the world? Where do they meet? We're still in the world. Where do they merge? What does this story tell us? How does it help us to answer the question, what is this love that remains? When we played out the experiences of life, perceptions of love in all its forms, as we have in our questing. To answer this question, we have an opportunity, a possibility to be that Mei Ling. Have merged within us that which is beyond perception, whilst living in the world.